You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Prosper in the Kingdom with me truly, I guess yours truly, maybe, I don't know. And then the ever awesome Wendy Lee. Wendy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
I know, right? Another Tuesday. I love it. Mowing the yard, grass is growing, trees are blooming. Can't breathe. That's a side effect, but I'm still in a happy place. So last week we covered the 10 habits of biblically wealthy and healthy people. You know, again, the whole point of this is teaching you how to thrive in your God-given place on this earth, both financially and health-wise. And we're going to continue on that. We're in episode 7 of our journey on the God's blueprint for health, wealth, and wisdom. And so, yeah, today we're going to be talking about how Christians should invest for the future. So let's kind of jump in. I mean, whether you're talking personal growth, whether you're talking wealth, health, all of the above, what you sow today, kind of using that, farming mindset, right? Gardening, whatever, determines your harvest tomorrow. So it's something that the activities you take today are going to be the results of your fruit down the road. So it's important. And we're talking about how to use your resources for your future self, your future generations, and your impact in the kingdom. So, yeah, let's jump in, Wendy.
All right. Well, I guess first it's important to understand the purpose, right? Why invest? And it's really not, it's not necessarily about like getting rich, right? But about multiplying what God gave us and ultimately to expand his kingdom and do his work. And, bottom line is we're called to reach people with the gospel, right? Mm-hmm. But in Matthew 25, he talks about the parable of the talents, right? And that's where he gives.
I love that one.
Gives the talents. So you guys read that verses 14 through 30. But the parable of talents, the master gave out, talents, different amount to each person. And the one who buried it in the ground and didn't do anything with it and just saved it was the one he was the most disappointed in, right? And the one that he was most happy with is the one that invested it all and, doubled what was there. So
let's talk about that for a quick second. I mean, and that was, a little bit of a surprise to me too. I read that parable years ago, but it's like, okay, so the person who played it safe, why was he upset with him the most? What do you think? What do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think, and this goes far beyond money, but like what we're given from God, definitely. Any blessing that we have is a gift. And it is to be used, not buried. Right. And I think that's the bottom line is we're supposed to, money, right, is a tool that we're supposed to use and invest and grow and multiply. Our gifts and talents. I mean, that was a struggle for me when I first started as an entrepreneur. It's like, the false humility, I say it's the insecurity disguising itself as humility. I don't want to show up too big or be, draw too much attention myself. So we take our own gifts and talents and bury them thinking that that's us being smart or humble. And it's not. All right. We're supposed to multiply what God has given us. We're supposed to use it as a blessing to the kingdom. And when you bury it in the ground, it's not put to work. It's not put to good use. So
no, and that's, you look at that and it's like, yeah, every one of us has been blessed, whether we acknowledge it or not, by God. You've been given gifts to use. You've been given abilities. You've been given resources, i.e. money. You've been given a healthy body when you were born, for the most part, right? There are instances on that where that's may not be the case, but you look at that and it's like, what are you doing with those resources that, are God's resources he's entrusting with you? And when it comes to your body, are you taking care of it, right? When it comes to your attitude, your demeanor, your service to others, do people look at you and say, man, that person, they've got a good walk with Christ. They've got, they're leveraging the resources. Same thing with your money. You've been entrusted with the resources. Are you playing it safe and just putting it in, a savings account or a CD or something? Don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for everything, but if that's your main source because of fear of loss or something like that, you're not turning it around and being able to use that and leverage that for the broader expanse of the kingdom, right? And we talked about things like that. We had somebody come back and say, I can't believe you're telling people not to tithe. I'm like, clearly you didn't listen to the whole episode. But anyway, a whole other story. But no, it's one of those things that really understanding what the purpose is and, building wealth and taking care of your family is part of it. But that's just a small part of it, right? And that's where that, if you haven't read the parable of the talents, Wendy pointed out, again, Matthew 25:14-30, go through it and really dig into it. Don't just read the words, think about it. Think about why the master was upset with, the individual and not too thrilled about the second one and was really happy with the third one. And how can I apply that to my own life? But again, money's a tool. If you don't grow it, it can't serve God's purpose in your life and others long term. So good stuff. And the second one is, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing about that is you mentioned this a little bit, but it's fear, right? So the one buried it because he was afraid of losing it, was afraid of not having it and wanted to protect it. And so when we're motivated by fear, right, and we don't move forward because of fear, then it's disobedient. Bottom line is it's disobedient. And we're more worried about tomorrow. And the Bible actually says, do not worry about tomorrow, or like tomorrow has enough worry in itself. So we have to be smart with the resources we have today and not operate out of fear of what could come tomorrow. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So the next one is, okay, hey, where do I get going then? I want to do this. I want to follow Christ's teachings and things like that. So where do I start? You start right here, right? You start with what you have. Do not despise small beginnings. That's in Zechariah, and I had to look that one up. I'm not real knowledgeable in the book of Zechariah, but Zechariah 4:10, do not despise these small beginnings. And you think about that, every oak tree that's out there, I don't care how massive it is, started with an acorn, a little seed, right? That's about the size of your thumb tip. It can turn into great things. So don't get frustrated by that. Don't think that, hey, I don't have large resources today. We all start at the same spot, right? And so, don't wait until you have more. Start where you are, even if it's a small investment that can grow over time. And there's all kinds of accounts. And even if you want to plan, I don't have a lot of resources, but I want a financial plan. Coach Wendy and I can pair you up with our team. They can give you a full financial plan, no obligation or whatever, but at least that way you've got a roadmap on getting where you want to get to. Take advantage of that. But, don't feel like you've got to have these massive resources, because what happens is it's never good enough to get started. So you never get started. Right. Yeah. In a lot of people's minds. So, what are your thoughts around that, Wendy?
Yeah. It's everything in life. Most people that aren't moving forward, it's because they're waiting until you can't wait until. You have to take action now. So again, it's thinking about tomorrow. Yeah, not that we don't need to have vision, but we have to take action today. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So start now.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's not just about your money, right? That's investing in your time for getting healthy. And that's one of the things that, I've been impressed with Wendy. I'm just going to give you a little shout out, Wendy. I've been impressed with Wendy when it comes to, getting in shape. At the beginning of the year, we're kind of on this, hey, let's get healthy. I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, I got to have the gym set up. I got to have the time blocked out to put in an hour workout. And so I'm still trying to get started, right, on a consistent level. And meantime, I'm talking to Wendy about this, and she's like, oh, I just work out all day long. And I'm like, what do you mean you work out all day long? It's like, as I'm going from the kitchen to the bathroom, I may stop and do, leaning squats or leaning push-ups against the countertop, or I'm just going to do squats while I'm walking around. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's genius. It's like working it in. And the next thing you know, you're walking around getting steps in and things like that while you're being intentional. When you're on a Zoom, doing a treadmill and things like that, it's like working that way in. So you can do that not only with your investing on your finances, starting small, even on your, think about it. If you're not exercising at all right now, if you're listening to this, not exercising at all, even just working in 15 minutes a day, that's an hour and a half during the week plus, right? That you've worked in that you weren't doing before. If you're just working in 15 minutes when you're going from point A to point B in your house. And so it's those baby steps that I think so many people overlook when it comes to health, when it comes to finances. They think it's not a big enough move, so I'm not going to do it at all. And really what that's doing is reinforcing I'm doing something. And then the next thing you know, you take the next step and then the next step. So shout out to you, Wendy Lee, for that. That's awesome. So
I was listening to actually Ed Milet talk about the other day, one of his recent podcasts, where I guess he had surgery. I can't remember the full story, or an injury. There's something that happened that he couldn't work out like he used to. And he's like, and then I'm just out of the habit. Like, I wasn't doing it. So instead of going, okay, I need to get back to it and like an hour and a half a day, blah, blah, blah. He said, I committed to wake up and do 5 push-ups right when I wake up before I go to the bathroom. And he goes, and I purposely only set that goal. I'm just going to, wake up and do 5 push-ups, right? I think it actually started with drinking enough, like a glass of water. He had the glass of water by his bed. I'm going to drink that before my feet hit the floor. Now, when my feet hit the floor, I'm going to do 5 push-ups. And then he evolved into the working out like he used to. But he's like, it's about that, so many times it's about the habit. And if we're always,
that's exactly right.
Yeah. And I talk to people constantly in business that are like, oh, once I get everything organized, once I get this, once I get all that, and it's like, in the meantime, the people that take action without getting everything right first are making money.
The time is slipping by. Exactly. So looking at the third thing is, as you're investing in your health, as you're investing in your finances, and as you're investing in, just your future self, think beyond that and think how am I impacting eternally, right? Key verse on this is Matthew 6:20, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Not just stacking cash here on earth. What are you doing to impact the kingdom? What are you doing to put a smile and impact others from a kingdom perspective? We all manage our finances here, but we want to make sure we're investing in what outlives us in people, ministries, kingdom causes, things like that, and really focusing on that outward impact as opposed to what can I do for myself, right? And, some people, you talk about people going on missions and get to do things like that. Well, some people were meant to, be involved in that, but not necessarily going on the mission trip, helping finance those missions, right? You can play a part in that too, even though you may not go around the world and spend, a month or two in Africa or whatever the case may be, but you can make an impact on that and have an eternal difference and impact people without even physically being in front of them, just because what you were able to do from a financial standpoint. And then on the flip side of that too, showing others, hey, take care of yourself. As Christians, we want you around as long as possible to help, be in the game, right? Christianity, being a Christian is not a sideline sport. That's where your health comes in. Hey, being there and being healthy to impact others and sharing your influence on other people as they kind of, go through their walk. We struggle on, and if you start thinking about that, it really kind of expands. We were put here for a purpose, and it was not to go out, get a job, stack cash, pay bills, and die. Right.
Exactly.
As a Christian, you've got to roll. And so I'm going off on a total tangent here, just interrupting.
That's not a tangent. No, it's completely accurate.
No, go ahead.
We're so short-sighted. And listen, we live in a world that is like everyone. I'm not going to say everyone because I don't walk around stressed out. I have though, but so many people are just stressed out. and thinking about all the weight of the world. And like, it's important to keep that that eternal mindset and understand this world is not our home. When I'm in like, when I've been in like serious financial like struggle, I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that's going to happen? One day, guess what? We're not taking, you're not going to take your student loan debt to the grave. You're not going to have to worry about it in heaven and pay that. I'm not saying don't pay your student loans, but I'm saying we let the weight of the world weigh us down to the point that we're not doing the things that we're called to do. When we really take a look at it, what really matters is people's souls, period. End of story.
Yeah.
And so everything in our lives need to be lined up to make an impact there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and myself included, you get caught up in the day to day and what's going on. And then like the stuff right in front of you, it's the whole, you can't see the forest for the tree. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's really when you start looking at the world and your life and your role in it, from a kingdom perspective, mm-hmm. that really puts things in perspective on what's going on, right? I mean, I heard somebody say this a few months ago, like humans are the only people or the only living thing on this planet that has to pay to be on this planet, right? Everything else, or the birds, the animals, the fish, they all do it for free, right? It's like, so it's this world we've created, and I think that world, quite frankly, and call me out on this if you don't agree with me, but I think it's a distraction. It's meant to distract you from what's really going on and what's really intended for your life. And that's where so many people get caught up. So again, keep that eternal perspective, that kingdom perspective as you go through lives. Your problems are going to seem smaller. Not that they're still not going to stress you out a little bit, but focus on that and choosing ways to invest your money or time or energy in something that's going to have a kingdom impact and have an eternal significance. So just kind of keep that perspective. Number 4, avoid and we talked a little bit about that, avoid those foolish and fear-based investments. A lot of people, when the market goes down, what do? They pull the money out, right? As opposed to putting money in. And a lot of people, when things are going up, they put money in. It's like, okay, you really want to buy low, sell high. That's just a straight up investment, but it goes much, much bigger than that. Having a plan, sticking to the plan, and not just in one area of wealth, but wealth, health, budgeting, all these different things that we talk about, and focusing on, the long-term strategy, the long-term play, create a plan, stick to the plan.
Yeah. And I think, to avoiding like everyone wants to make money, right? But not falling into traps of like just chasing money, right? Like, and I think that can go a couple different ways. Where you have somebody said online you can make this much money in this amount of time, and there is a verse that I've been reading Proverbs, the book, every month this year. So I've now read this verse 3 times this year. But the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So if you're just get rich quick, what's the next greatest thing? Shiny object syndrome, right? That leads to poverty. Whereas if you are diligent, if you are consistent, if you are, building and working and being wise, right? You can build something truly sustainable. And so I think, and, I think about crypto sometimes, when not that crypto is all bad, but I remember there was a time where it was just like, buy this, you're going to be the next millionaire, if you just buy this. And people without money, without the extra to invest, are throwing money at something that, and then they lose it. So whatever. Some people left out, but
well, it's with that, it goes again to the get rich quick, right? And it's the same thing with getting healthy. Right. It's like, okay, if you've been eating like crap for 20 years and you're overweight, it's not gonna be like, okay, take this magic pill. And, you see what's going on with the GLP-1, the Wegovy's, and I forget what the other names for it are, but, people are thinking this is the magic shot, and all of a sudden I'm losing weight. And yeah, you're losing weight, but there's a heck of a lot of side effects that are starting to come up, and I think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits on that down the road. But 40% of the weight you lose is muscle. And it's like, because everybody's looking for that quick fix, right?
And they're ruining their long-term health.
Oh yeah, that's the exact point. And there's alternatives out there that are much healthier for you, that take a lot, a longer strategy. And it's the same way on the finances, right?
Mhm.
It takes a little longer on the strategy, but they're tried and true and proven. And that's really where it comes to, okay, let's do the research, let's look into it. Let's not look for the quick win, right? And I think a lot of people do that on their health and wealth. And let's look at, I want a viable solution that's going to give long-term positive results, that aren't going to, have a short-term negative impact. So, or long-term negative impact, excuse me. So again, avoid those foolish and fear-based investments in your finances as well as your health.
Yeah.
And then lastly, looking at diversifying your investments, and that comes to diversifying your investments on finances, obviously, but also on the health side. Ecclesiastes 11:2. We got a lot of verses going out today. Ecclesiastes 11:2. Divide your portion to 7 or even 8, for you do not know when the disaster may come. Right. So it's kind of planning for all alternatives. That's going back to the financial stuff. That's what I love about our team when they start doing the financial planning for the clients, is they look at 6 different areas, right? Not one, not growth. That's one of them, but there's so many other things. And it's the same way with the impact. You've got people, I want to look buff, so they'll do, the chest workout or whatever, and they don't take care of the insides, right? Or they don't take care of the heart. They don't do the cardio, right? They're not supplementing it with, a good, health supplements and things like that to reinforce the growth that's going on inside. And because of that, you get you're imbalanced when it comes to financials. So things impact you that shouldn't have necessarily had that big of an impact. But it's the same way with health, or even, getting enough sleep, stuff like that. That's all important in the big scheme of stuff. So again, make sure you're evaluating your current investments. If you need help with that, let us know. We can put you in touch with people. Same thing with your estate planning, same thing with your physical stuff. What are you doing to get in shape? And there's just tremendous resources out there. So,
all right. I lost you for a minute. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Yeah.
Did I freeze?
You're freezing up a little bit too. So a little bit. Yeah. So I thought you were just really intent on, focusing on what I was saying. I'm like, man, I'm doing really good here. Wendy's just like focused. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So again, we went a little long today, but hopefully this is, really helping you out. I love this series that we're doing, again, on God's blueprint for health, wealth, and wisdom. The wisdom has obviously come from the Bible and just personal experience with other Christians and whatnot. So that's why we're sharing this with you. But, again, just to recap, number one, understand the purpose of investing in building wealth and health. Start with where you have. Start at square one, which is right now, right here, right? Invest in the internal impact. Keep that kingdom perspective in what you're doing. You are meant for so much more than what you have going on today. In 9 out of 10 cases, you may already have realized that you're that 10%er out there. Fantastic. But the rest of us are just living so far beneath our potential. And it doesn't have to be that way. Number 4, avoid foolish and fear-based investments. Number 5, diversify and protect your investments and look at what you're doing, not only wealth-wise, but health-wise. So where are you investing your time and resources right now? Where do you need to start? I'd love to hear that in the comments. If you're not already a subscriber, please do so. Show us some love. Give us a click. Click that little subscribe button and make sure you set your alerts. And we're also on podcast too. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or iHeartRadio or whatever the case, please give us a little love there too. And we'd love to hear from you, as far as the comments there as well. So next week, we're going into more on the health side. So the body is an asset. Take care of it. That's what we're going to be talking about. So again, Wendy, it was awesome seeing you this week. We'll see you next Tuesday as we keep going on this series. And everybody make it a great day. And we'll see you next week on Prosper in the Kingdom. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.